All right. Hey, everybody. So, Sarah Drasner, this amazing, awesome developer person, human, she had posted this really cool video a couple weeks ago. Yeah. And yeah, it uses some code here with like annotations to explain how reduce works. And right around here, she does something really cool. Whoop. That's fancy. So a bunch of people, not yet, and some more, and it does even more again. What? Isn't that so awesome? And so I was like, wow, that's amazing. I want to know how you did that. So I actually am giving a talk. I should have had this pulled up earlier. Simply React. I'm giving this talk. La la la. Spoiler alert. Where I explain how to create an accordion and like with good design principles so that it's I don't know, easier to use it. And so like here we've got, maybe I should have explained. We've got a bunch of different use cases that we support. And so every single one of these means more props for you, and it just makes your component get even like more and more complex. And so anyway, my assertion is that if you use the right patterns and patterns in your React components, that you can support all of these things. It just takes a little bit more work on the end of the user of your component, but not a lot. And so I say, so here's your standard component, and to make it support the above version of the component, then it's actually just switch those, and it's nice. But I had this git diff, and I was like, okay, so the red moves up to where the green is, and then you just change the emoji. But I didn't really like it. I thought it could be a lot better. And so I thought about doing a magic move thing like what Sarah has, and that's actually, Sarah showed me how she does it, and it's actually using Keynote, the magic move functionality. I was hoping that she'd built it with JavaScript, and because like I don't have Keynote actually. that's pretty much the main reason. And it also kind of sounded like a lot of work to make magic move do that. So anyway, I didn't like this. I wanted to do something like magic move, and then I saw Sarah's thing, and I was like, hey, that's super awesome. How did you do that? And she emailed me the Keynote file, and I said, oh, that's great. Thank you, Sarah, for taking your time. But I'm actually going to try and see if I can make this work in JavaScript. So that's what I did. So whoop, kind of fancy. So this is how this is implemented. There's more. This isn't it. This is my first iteration on this. But yeah, I've just got like not a whole lot of CSS going on here. Most of this is JavaScript powered. And so the idea is you have this div, and inside you have these slides, and inside those slides you have spans, or whatever kind of element that have data attributes for the move ID or unique. And so if it's unique, then it's going to fade out, like goodbye and hello are unique. And then the data move IDs are the ones that have an associated move ID. And what's basically happening is we're saying, find the corresponding, like we're moving from slide 1 to slide 2, find the corresponding move ID here. And well, actually, sorry, let me explain things a little bit better from the start. This is not syntax highlighted, but let me see if I can pull up a syntax highlighted thing. Release notes. Looks like Visual Studio Code was updated. I want to look at those later. I don't know how to pull those up later though. We'll find out. Okay, so here it is. Actually, we're going to index.html. Okay, now it's nice. So we get our root, and then we get the slides and the move elements, and then we make children absolute. So this is where it started. I'll show you the differences in the final version. But I take all of the elements and I make them well, here it looks like I have a position fixed. So things have changed. But yeah, so I've fixed their position and set their top, left, right, and bottom for where they are currently on the page. And that is how I can make them animate like this, is because they're all actually absolutely positioned. So it loads onto the page, finds out their position, and then absolutely positions them at their current position. And then I store a position styles on the node. And then when I click on the root, then I'm going to get the previous slide node. And I'm going to get the parts, which here that is get me the unique and the move IDs. And for each of the previous unique, I'm going to set their style opacity to 0, and that's what makes hello fade out, is its opacity is set to 0, and then it has animation in CSS or a transition in CSS for that. So yeah, all the uniques go to 0. Then I set the current slide index so that I can get the next slide node, and I get the unique and move for those. And for each of the next unique, I set its opacity to 1. And then for each of the previous move, I'm going to get the corresponding next node based off of that move ID that is shared between the two of them. And I'm going to assign the previous style to the corresponding next style. So the one that's moving is the previous one. And so the previous slide moves over to where the next slide is. Where its corresponding next thing is. So yeah, and then I'm doing some set timeout dangerous stuff here, but you know, it's a hack, so we can do set timeouts. And I set the whole slide's opacity to 1 after 300 milliseconds, so that the next slide will fade in. And then I set the previous slide to 0. And then when that is finished transitioning to be invisible, then I move all the previous move elements, I move them to their original position styles, so that when I click again, the previous goes to the next. So anyway, that's basically how it goes. Okay, so I've got some update. We've got Latvia, Sweden, Virginia, Egypt, and Austin, Texas. Wow, literally all over. That's really cool. We don't have anybody in Asia though. Maybe they're all sleeping. I don't know what time it is there. But yeah, all over the place. Cool. Thanks for watching. Okay, so that's how this one works. And then the goal here is to make it work for code. And so this is where things get a little bit more tricky. It needs to be code and it needs to be syntax highlighted. So I did get it to work, but I had to do a couple of different things. So first of all, if I want it syntax highlighted, I cannot have it hard-coded with divs and spans. Like, that would just not be fun to write that. If you're not familiar, the way that syntax highlighters work on the web is you have a pre, and that pre has a code, and inside of that code is a bunch of spans for every, well, see, this is, my thing is kind of messed up with it, but you have a span with the class that is associated to what the node is. So here we have, well, this is kind of tricky. Let me look at, because I'm doing a bunch of weird things. So for a better example, let's look at this. Inspect. So I'm using Prism for this. But yeah, so we have a span class token comment, and then we have a keyword, and then we just have a regular old, like, it's nothing, it's just some text. It doesn't have any highlighting at all. And we have an operator and punctuation and another keyword, and so on and so forth. So it's just a code element with a bunch of spans. And then it preserves its white space, and that actually proved to be kind of tricky. Oh, sweet, we've got somebody in India and Ukraine. Wow, all over the place. And another Egypt and Kenya. Nice. Okay, that's fun. We're all over the world and we're enjoying code together. It's a special thing. Yeah, so this is how Prism works, and it worked out kind of nicely. There are some challenges here. So let's take a look at some of those challenges. First of all, I didn't want to, like I said, I didn't want to write this structure myself. So I created these slides, and then each one of these is just an object that has a code property. Probably could just be a code string itself. I don't think it needs any other properties. But then I need to have ways to say, hey, this section needs to move. This section is one of those unique that just fades out, and then and we don't worry about moving it. And so this is what I did. I added a comment for when it should move, and it can also be a comment like this for if it's like only if it's part of an existing line. That was a little tricky, but I got that to work. Then we also have a unique version, or unique start and unique end. That doesn't need an ID, so it's just anywhere between unique start and unique end. That chunk will fade. And then we have move param start and then move params end. So it doesn't have to be the same type of comment, which just actually kind of happened to work, which is kind of cool. What ends up happening is I will convert that string of code to Prism, and it will end up having a bunch of span comment blocks in it. And then I use some fancy regex and stuff to remove those span comment blocks and surround them with a span that is one of my data attribute spans. So you have this move ID 1, and then you have this data unique, and here we go. So you have a data unique, and then you have a move ID that's params, and then a function, the function body, and then you get to the contents, the button, and then just the end here. And so then like all of the actual stuff is contained inside of these spans, whereas on normal Prism, the whole code is just full of a bunch of individual spans. I nest those into a moving span. And that was kind of miraculous that worked. But anyway, so I have the first set of code. This is the first state. And then I have the second set of code, and that's the second state, or the second slide. And then I was experimenting with stuff as I was debugging and stuff. So yeah, then for each one of those, I'm going to create a slide node, and I'll set the data set slide. So it has data-slide. And then I'm going to create a pre-node and a code node. And then I'm going to get the code HTML from Prism. And so this is going to get me some code that has associated comment nodes for all of these things. And then I'm going to get all the move points, so I know the IDs that I have for the move points. Well, actually, sorry, I get just get all the move point strings. And then for each one of those move points, I'm going to get the move point ID for that move point. And then I'm going to take the prepped code, which I initially assigned to the code HTML, and replace it with, or replace a regex with that move point ID. So anything between the move and then move point ID start, and then move point ID end. And remember, those are going to be in like spans because these are actually code now. So anything between those two is going to get regex replaced with a span with that move ID, and then I have a group for everything between that. So it just replaces it with everything between that. This regex was not easy to figure out how to make it work, but it works pretty well. And then I'll do the same thing with the unique start and unique end. And because that doesn't have an ID, I just replace it all just once with data uniques. And then I set the code node to inner HTML that prepped code, and then I append all the children. And and it works. And then things change slightly in this mover file. So now I put this in a solidify or slidify. And let's see. Yeah, so now instead of just making all the children from the root absolute, I'm making the children from the code absolute. So for each slide, it'll have a code node, and that code node will have children inside of it. And then those children in particular, I'm just going to get the move IDs and the data uniques. Just those elements. I'm not going to make everything inside of it absolute, because I actually don't need it to be all absolute. It just needs to be the stuff that's going to move or going to fade out by itself. And so in addition to that, Ivan something yesterday was super helpful and gave me a tip here to make everything relative to the code node bounding client rect. So I set that code node to block and relative and set its width and its height. And then for all the elements, I'm going to get the bounding client rect. It looks like I actually don't need right and bottom anymore. But I'm going to set that position to absolute, and thankfully now it's relative to the code node, and so absolute works. And then I also need to make the top and left relative to the code node as well, so I use rect top and left. And then it's important here that we don't apply these style changes as we're iterating through all these, because every single time we make a change to this style, that's going to repaint and reflow. And so when I call get bounding rect on the next child, it's going to be different from when I first start it. So we store all this up as position styles on the child node, and then when we're all done storing what its position styles should be, then we go through each of them and assign the styles to the position styles. And so that's the initial state of the page. We load up things, we see where it should be laid out, and then we find out exactly where it is on the page. We set it to absolute and set it to that exact position. So it only looks like it's flowing normally, but it's actually just positioned precisely where it should be. And then when I click on it, lots of this is pretty much all the same. I did a nested timeout here because you probably can't tell, but here there's like a little fade thing that kind of is messed up on each one of these words. They kind of go like woo. So it didn't look super great, and so I do an additional. So I make the next slide node fade in, and then 300 milliseconds later, then I fade out the old one, and then move everything. So anyway, that's how this works. So my next goals here, actually I didn't even notice, but you'll see that the hand is changing. Whoop, whoop. Kind of fun. I probably could make this a unique, but I think that's probably fine to have it just fade between the two. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, my next goal here is I don't like this color scheme, so I'd really like to be able to figure out how to style this like night owl, and maybe I could get dank mono working on here too. Probably could get that working right now actually, because I've got dank mono installed on my machine. So I just go here, see how it sets the font. Yeah, here we go. Dank mono, and do the same on this one. Yeah, oh, that's right. Oops. Is that dank mono? I can't tell unless I see an F. Because I think that might be dank mono. Let's see. Change this to F. Yeah, that's dank mono. Sweet. Yeah, so that'll be easy. So then the other thing is making it style so that it will look like night owl, like my thing here from Sarah Dratzner, because I just think that looks so slick. And then I'll do a GIF recording of this effect, and I can use that in my talk, and it'll be brilliant, and I can't wait. So yeah, anyway, yeah, we've got another one from Kenya and one from Thailand, all over the place. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. I hope this was instructive and things. I've got a link in the notes of the or the description of the video, so you can check out, play around with this, and yeah, just start using this for your own stuff. I think it's pretty sick. I think this would actually also, like this mover could be applied to any type of node, I think, not just text. So yeah, come up with something interesting. And maybe if somebody wants to, you can take this and make it a legit library. Just like credit me, that would be nice. But yeah, I think it'd be sweet to have a legit library. That's a magic move for the web. So yeah, we got a Columbia. Woo! Okay, that's it for me. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all around. Bye.